Welcome to this video on maximizing your transition and preventing your so-called safe savings from quietly losing value. We'll walk through practical, low-risk ways to boost your cash yield, optimize underperforming retirement accounts, and invest surplus capital thoughtfully until 2027. By the end, you'll have an actionable plan that balances accessibility, safety, and growth. Let's begin. Here's today's roadmap. First, we'll explain why low-interest savings can reduce your purchasing power. Next, we'll cover how to use high-yield savings accounts, laddered CDs, and short-term treasury bills for short-term needs. Then, we'll confront underperforming retirement accounts and the role of low-cost index funds. After that, we'll discuss investing surplus capital in a taxable account. We'll finish with a step-by-step action plan, quick quizzes to reinforce learning, and clear takeaways. This video is educational and informational. It is not financial, legal, or tax advice. Your situation is unique, and you should do your own research and consider consulting a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Let's address the core problem. Keeping a large sum in a low-yield account while inflation persists causes your purchasing power to decline. Even if the principal is stable, its buying power erodes. This is financial stagnation. The solution is to keep your near-term cash liquid yet working harder for you. Short-term cash should be accessible and productive. High-yield savings accounts generally offer better yields than traditional savings while maintaining liquidity. Laddered certificates of deposit allow you to stagger maturities, improving yield without sacrificing access, because a portion matures regularly to meet near-term costs. Short-term treasury bills provide government-backed safety and competitive yields. They can be bought via Treasury Direct or a brokerage. Prioritize matching your maturities and liquidity to your planned expenses through 2027. The immediate action is to move designated near-term savings into the best-yielding conservative options you can access, while keeping enough liquidity for upcoming bills. This mind map organizes your cash for 2024 through 2027 into 4 buckets: tuition, living expenses, emergency fund, and a buffer. Tuition breaks down by semester, while living expenses include rent, food, transport, and books. The emergency fund represents 3 to 6 months of expenses, and the buffer covers unexpected fees and travel. Tuition and living buckets can be held in a mix of HYSA and a CD ladder to match expected cash flows, while the emergency fund can sit in HYSA or short-term T-bills to retain quick access and safety. Here's a practical plan. First, map your expenses through 2027, including tuition by semester and monthly living costs. Second, set liquidity tiers. Maintain 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. Ladder certificates of deposit to cover the subsequent 6 to 18 months, and consider short-term treasury bills for funds beyond that window. Third, choose institutions carefully by comparing yields, fees, and transfer times, and verify applicable FDIC or NCUA insurance or treasury backing. Fourth, automate transfers to avoid manual effort and ensure consistency. Finally, review quarterly and adjust as your needs evolve, rolling maturing CDs into new rungs if they are still appropriate. Quiz time. The question is, which mix is generally most suitable for money you will need over the next 6 to 24 months? Options are A. Long-dated corporate bonds only, B. HYSA, laddered CDs, and short-term T-bills, C. Leveraged ETFs, and D. Cryptocurrencies. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. HYSA, laddered CDs, and short-term T-bills. These vehicles are aligned with short-term needs because they balance safety, liquidity, and yield compared to speculative or long-duration choices. Underperformance in retirement accounts often stems from the investment choices and fees rather than the institution itself. The priority is to move toward low-cost, passively managed index funds and ensure your expense ratios and administrative fees are minimized. Transfer accounts only if the fees or fund lineup at your current provider are prohibitive. Start by reviewing your current fund lineup. Choose broad, low-cost index funds such as Total Market or S&P 500 style funds as core holdings. Watch expense ratios carefully. Small differences can compound substantially over a long horizon. Diversify appropriately for your risk tolerance and time frame, including bond and international exposure as needed. Automate contributions to ensure consistency and avoid the temptation to time the market. Review quarterly to monitor fees, allocation drift, and overall alignment with your plan, rather than reacting to daily price movements. If fees are punitive or fund options are limited, consider transferring. First, audit all costs including expense ratios, advisory, and custodial fees. Second, compare alternative providers that offer broad index fund menus, low costs, solid tools, and reliable service. Third, use a trustee-to-trustee transfer where appropriate to avoid unintended tax consequences. Fourth, once the assets arrive, rebuild your target low-cost allocation. Finally, document the process and schedule a 90-day review to verify outcomes and make any necessary adjustments. This timeline lays out a phased plan. In the first quarter of 2024, map expenses and set liquidity tiers. In the second quarter, open a high-yield savings account and implement a CD ladder. In the third quarter, add short-term treasury bills. In the fourth quarter, review retirement holdings and transition to low-cost index funds as needed. Throughout 2025, conduct quarterly reviews, roll maturing CDs, and rebalance. In 2026, maintain the ladder and increase taxable investing if surplus grows. In 2027, as graduation approaches, consolidate cash and reassess your goals. Here's another quick quiz. What typically has the largest impact on your retirement account's long-term performance? Options are A, the brand name of your brokerage, B, the timing of your last trade, C, expense ratios and asset allocation, and D, how often you check your balance. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is C, expense ratios and asset allocation. Over long periods, costs compound and asset allocation largely determines your risk and return profile, whereas brokerage branding and frequent balance checks do not materially improve outcomes. Once your cash flow buffer and retirement accounts are optimized, allocate surplus capital to a taxable brokerage account. Choose broad, low-cost index funds for simplicity and diversification. Automate contributions to stay consistent. Consider tax efficiency by favoring tax-efficient funds and longer holding periods to potentially minimize taxable distributions. If no large purchases are planned until after 2027, allow the surplus to compound rather than sit idle. Here's a comparison. Index funds typically offer low costs, transparency, and broad diversification, and they aim to match the market with minimal maintenance. Actively managed funds usually have higher fees and turnover, they attempt to beat the market but often do so inconsistently, and they require ongoing manager selection and monitoring. Over time, the lower fee structure of index funds is a persistent advantage for many investors. This table summarizes 3 short-term cash vehicles. High-yield savings accounts provide high liquidity and low risk when covered by applicable deposit insurance and are well suited for emergency funds and monthly expenses. Laddered certificates of deposit offer scheduled liquidity at each rung with low risk, though early withdrawals can incur penalties. Short-term treasury bills are backed by the U.S. government and are accessible through Treasury Direct or brokerages. Coordinate maturities with your expense timeline and note settlement timing. These are the main takeaways. Inflation quietly erodes low-yield cash, so take action promptly. Use high-yield savings, CD ladders, and short-term treasury bills for near-term needs. Optimize retirement accounts with low-cost index funds and transfer only if fees require it. Invest surplus capital in diversified index funds if no major purchases are planned before 2027. Automate processes and review quarterly to remain aligned with your plan. To wrap up, map your needs from now through 2027 and set clear liquidity tiers. Place cash into the right vehicles, balancing access and yield. Optimize retirement accounts with low-cost index funds, transferring providers only if fees are excessive. Direct surplus funds into diversified index funds and allow them to compound while you study. Automate your plan and conduct regular reviews. Thanks for watching. If this video helped, please like, share, and subscribe. Share your strategies and questions in the comments so we can learn together. See you in the next one.